So if you want to progress and move forward, if you don't want to feel angry all the time, you have to embrace that you are the one who is going to make that change.
Hey, it's Shaye, and I'm your host and the founder of Casual Cattle Conversations, a global rancher education company that strives to bring honest thoughts and conversations from ranchers and leaders to other ranchers. Be sure to follow Cattle Convos on social media to have more in-depth conversations around the ranching business and lifestyle brought to you. If you are ready to take your operation to the next level and improve your lifestyle too, send me a message about my Rancher Mind group. Rancher Minds are monthly roundtable discussions for ranchers to learn from peers and experts and leave the call with actionable advice to make changes on their own operations. With that, let's see who our guest is today and what experience and advice they have to offer you to improve your own operation.
Hey folks, it's me again. And to start off today with the episode, it's going to be me again. I'm going to talk about some of my ranching experience and learning and just kind of have a twist off of my last solo episode. It's something where I really want to share what I'm learning and doing with you guys too. So that's what we're going to talk about. And today we're going to talk about how I personally traded anger and frustration in for joy and enjoyment. And so if you are someone who just wants to be excited about life, excited about ranching again, or maybe you are excited but just want to keep that up, this is really the episode for you. And we're going to offer some actionable advice about just choosing joy and how you can bring the joy back to the enjoyment of ranching, if that makes sense. But just before we roll into that, I do want to say with my Rancher Mind events, so if you've been following along and following on social media and my website, these aren't really anything I've talked a lot about on my podcast, but what I do is they're mastermind events for ranchers each month. If you're not sure what a mastermind event is, think about a roundtable Q&A discussion where I bring in experts, and then there are usually about 15 to 20 ranchers on the call, and you get to connect with one another. You get to connect with the experts on whatever the topic is for that day, and you really get to find answers to whatever problem you're facing on your ranch as it relates to that specific topic. So we've done some on like reproduction and nutrition, grazing management, cattle marketing series, etc. So if you want in on those upcoming events in the future, or you would like access to the recordings for the 2022 series, then the best way to do that is to go on social media and send me a direct message. My social media handle is at Cattle Convos, or you can search Casual Cattle Conversations and send me a message and say, hey, I want the recording. That is the best way to do that. And then I will help you access those recordings once they become available. The cattle marketing series wraps up here in September. So once that is wrapped up, I will be able to release the recordings, make those available for purchase so that you have access to them if you're a rancher or if you're a business owner and you think your company would benefit from hearing the real stories and problems that your customers face if you're serving ranchers, then let me know, because it's available to companies as well. So like I said, if you want those recordings, if you want to hear those conversations for whatever it may be, if it's improving your own ranch or improving your customer service or your company, send me that message on my social media pages. Once again, that is at Cattle Convos. That's Facebook and Instagram are best. But with that, let's talk about trading in anger for joy. So to preface this, I used to really get frustrated pretty easily. If one thing didn't go right, it kind of ruined my whole day. Just be mad. And it's it wasn't fun, like wherever we're at in life, something is bound to go wrong. Not everything is perfect, but ultimately we have to choose how we want to feel about that situation. And so where I really found myself in those years of going back and forth between the ranch and college and the ranch and college, it was like I left the ranch and I was homesick. I wanted nothing more than to just be back. And yes, I miss my family, but a lot of it was like just yearning for the place. I just wanted to be with the cattle. I wanted to be doing what I love. I would have just done anything to feed cows every day, even when everyone in my area who does it every day was just getting sick of feeding cows every day, right? And so, but then I'd come back, and if one thing went wrong, I'd be frustrated and I just angry about something, and I just wanted to leave, wanted to go back to college. But then I'd get back to college and the cycle would continue. And it was almost like I wasn't happy anywhere I was at. And so obviously, a lot of this comes with maturity, but where I found the solution, it wasn't necessarily in my direct actions. It wasn't necessarily in what I was involved in because I knew I was passionate about ranching. I knew that. That's what I wanted. It's what I always come back to. And I found the solution in my mindset shift. Now, what I mean by that is it wasn't necessarily the circumstance or the situation because we can't control that. We can control the controllables. But when it gets to a point where we're in a situation that we just simply can't control because we're humans and there's a lot of other factors in our life, then it comes down to, well, we can't directly control this situation, but the controllable is our mind and how we think about that situation and how we are viewing ourselves within that situation. To start off, when we're looking at trading in anger for joy and finding enjoyment in ranching again and making that difference, and I'm going to back up here, it's not just enjoyment in ranching, it's enjoyment in life. Like, don't get me wrong, I have hard days, but after working on my mindset and working with a mindset coach, I find so much more joy in life in general, no matter what gets thrown my way, no matter what goes on, because I can control my mind and I live my life happy. There's in the simplest way possible, that's what it is. I'm living my life happily and like I want to, despite whatever gets thrown at me. That first step is to recognize the current feeling or emotion that is present in your situation. If machinery breaks down, if the cattle break through a gate, break down a fence, whatever it may be, if your automatic emotion or feeling is that you're ticked off, you might be cussing a blue streak, you might just be angry and mad, and that's okay. Like, that's just part of it. You're going to feel those emotions no matter what. So, the first step is to recognize what emotion you're feeling. The next step is to embrace and accept that you are the one who has to make that change. Now, I'm going to say one thing. If you're working in anger all the time, working out of anger, constantly frustrated, you're not going to be progressive and make the changes you want. That's just how our minds are wired when you're stressed. So, if you want to progress and move forward, if you don't want to feel angry all the time, you have to embrace that you are the one who is going to make that change and be able to say, I feel this now, but that's not what I want to feel. So, you have to embrace and accept that one, it's okay to feel whatever you're feeling, but two, you and you alone are in charge of changing that feeling. And we're going to talk about how to do that. So, for step 3, think about what thought comes to your mind when the equipment breaks down, when the cattle break through a fence, when that calf died. I mean, when your hired help doesn't show up for the day. Those are all tough circumstances and they suck. But what thought is coming to your mind? What actual thought are you telling yourself? Are you thinking? Because that ultimately is dictating your emotion. And so, for example, say the yearlings take out a fence because they got spooked. And it might not have been the best fence, it might have been an older fence. If your initial thought is, our operation is behind, or our operation has crappy fences, or we aren't enough because our yearlings are destroying the fences. Whatever it may be, and that may not be at all what you're thinking, but those are negative thoughts, right? Those are thoughts that would evoke anger in your mind. So instead, that circumstance is still the same. That situation is still the same. The yearlings will always go through, like the yearlings went through the fence, whatever. You can't change it. You're mad. But you can twist that thought into a more positive thought. Maybe it's now we can change that fence right away, like we needed to already. Or maybe it's, you know what? This is a great learning moment for my kids who are along. So, that's just one example, but it could be anything really. And so those are the kind of the three steps we talked about. Recognize your current feeling or emotion, embrace and accept that you are the one who has to change it. That was step 2 because you're in charge. And step 3 was picking a thought and deciding how you're going to think about the circumstance differently to provide the feeling you want or emotion you want, really. Now, that example I gave about the yearlings going through the fence, didn't, maybe that wasn't quite what you were thinking, but that's just one example that you can use to think about. Um, so, and you really need to think about how you are motivated and what's going to motivate you because I'm going to be motivated by different things than you are. So it's really personal to you, but it all comes down to what thoughts you decide to put into your mind. And it's not something that comes right away. I worked with a mindset coach to help me do this. We worked together for months, and I still catch myself putting negative thoughts in my mind. And that's something that will always happen. That's human nature. But on the flip side, I can catch myself and turn those negative thoughts into positive thoughts and push through certain situations. And so, an example of that is back about 7 or 8 months ago, I was experiencing a lot of doubt and imposter syndrome, being 22 in the ranching industry, in the podcast industry, trying to build up what I was doing, trying to create value for you all. I was experiencing a lot of doubt and imposter syndrome. And so, if you're not familiar what imposter syndrome is, that's where you feel like an imposter in your own space. It's where you don't feel like you're actually good enough. You don't feel like you're actually making an impact, whatever it may be. There are a lot of negative thoughts telling you are telling yourself, I should say, that you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. You're not worthy, you're not capable, whatever it may be. And so that's what I was kind of experiencing with this podcast. And what it ultimately came down to was I didn't feel like I was making an impact on the beef industry. And that was a negative thought about what I was telling myself. So to overcome that, I started setting a reminder on my phone so that at noon every day, I have a reminder that pops up and says, you are making a difference in the beef industry. And that's one way that I use that mindset shift. Now, because obviously, that first initial thought about you're not making a difference in the beef industry, you're not making enough of an impact, that's not going to make me very happy. That's not going to make me want to push forward. It's it's not a good thing to be telling myself, but flipping that and saying, you are making a difference, you are making an impact, you are connecting with people in the beef industry. That makes me feel positive. That makes me move forward. That makes me want to make the changes that I can. And I'm not saying that for you guys to start messaging me or anything like that. That's just me being real about the reality of owning a business. And it really doesn't matter what age you are. If you own a business, you probably have experienced imposter syndrome at some point, and it doesn't really go away. But that's just me being honest with like the entrepreneurship side of things and how this mindset shift has helped there. Another way that I've used the mindset shift is if you get my newsletter, you saw this in like probably one of the June issues. But I learned this summer how to row bales with our hay hiker. I had rowed bales with our tractor and payloader before, but I'd never used the hay hiker before. If you're curious about what that is, basically, It's like a long trailer that you pull behind the tractor. It's got a swing arm, it's or a cradle, and it swings down. You drive up, pick up the bale, flip it over, grab another bale, flip it over, and then there's a push bar that pushes those bales back, and you keep going. And so it just makes the process faster as opposed to just using a loader. I had never used one of those before. We got it when I was in junior high or high school, and that was always my grandpa or sister or dad's job. I never had to use it or got to run it. And I was pretty okay with that. But I I had the opportunity and we needed someone to run it this year. And so now that I'm back, I ran it. And it was really rough. And I was unloading my first row of bales by myself. And my first initial thought was, these are crooked. I am terrible at this. Dad and grandpa are going to be ticked because we're all OCD and people can see it from the road. And I was just putting myself down and I could feel myself tense up. And I could recognize that that was impacting how I was loading the rest of the bales. And the next load wasn't any better because I had let my frustration get the best of me. And so by the time I had two unloaded, I told myself, okay, take a few deep breaths. You need to take a second to figure out how you can actually think about this. And I looked at the whole situation from the big picture. And it was that today I learned a new skill. And then, and it was today I learned a new skill. And it's okay to grant myself grace that there are mistakes because I'm still better today than I was yesterday. I learned something new today that I didn't know yesterday. So then on the next load, things, the next row was a lot straighter. Things look better. So then that thought even, got better. And it was like, you learned a new skill and you're progressively getting better. And so that's just something that another example for how I've used that on the ranch. In certain situations, you can use it however you want. But as we move forward with the tips, as far as how to bring joy back into your life or choose happiness or trade out that anger and frustration so that you can feel that joy and enjoyment, one of the first tips I'm going to say is set that phone reminder. If it's kind of imposter syndrome or confidence related, if you're working on a big project, if you've just been busting your butt, or if it's a family transition, whatever it is that's really kind of been weighing on your heart and mind, that's kind of been impacting how you've been showing up to your ranch every day, set a reminder on your phone so that it goes off and every day you look at it. It's simple, it's easy, it's there, and it helps more than you realize if you take the 5 seconds to just read it. The next step, and I've brought this up before, is gratitude. Each morning, you don't have to journal it, you don't have to write it down. I like to do it in the morning. You can do it whatever you want in the day. Write down 3 things you are grateful for. It's been brought up in episodes before, but gratitude is so life-changing because it really makes you realize all the little things that count as blessings, even when everything else is going wrong. Find 3 little things that you can be grateful for, that you can thank God for, that you can thank your friends and family for, right? And the final tip is reflection. I talked about this in my episode about how to start doing it all in one day. Reflection is key. In that episode, I talked about how I use my tractor time for reflection, but this is something that you can use anytime. It's important to reflect on, and it doesn't have to be like for long hours a day or like, I like to reflect a little every day, but it could be weekly, monthly, whatever it may be. But take time to think about how far you've come and how that's in line with your goals and what you can change to get there. Or, if that's ranch wise, great, but do it personally too for whatever your personal goals are. So, with that, as I kind of wrap up, the 3 steps to trading in frustration and anger for joy and enjoyment are to set that phone reminder with a positive thought for whatever's weighing on your heart and mind, to say the 3 things you're grateful for every day, and to reflect. because at the end of the day, everything is a journey and not a destination. So slow down, embrace that it's a journey, and take the time to shift your mindset so that you're having fun again and enjoying what you're doing. Because if you're passionate about something, I want you to enjoy it. I want you to enjoy your ranching. I want you to enjoy if you're in that place of life where you are working multiple jobs and ranching. I want you to enjoy what you're doing because if you feel in your heart that you're truly passionate about it, but finding that you're dealing with a lot of anger or in a place where maybe you don't want to be, start with your mind. You're in control of it. You get to decide if you want to do it. Those are my tips. I can't make you do it, but my challenge for you is to start off by thinking about maybe a circumstance or situation that didn't go the way you wanted and made you upset, and how you could have rethought about that. That's my challenge for you today. Let me know your thoughts on the episode and take care.
And that's a wrap on that one. Be sure to let me know your thoughts on the episode and if you have any further questions around the topic. Take care and have a great day.